The 53rd floor penthouse overlooking the city skyline was as cold as its owner's heart. Harrison Wells stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his reflection pale against the glass. At 62, he had built Wells Enterprises into a global empire, but now found himself utterly alone with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. "Mr. Wells, I've scheduled another appointment with the specialist," said Thomas, his longtime assistant. "Cancel it," Harrison replied without turning. "We've been through this. I'm not interested in prolonging the inevitable." Thomas sighed. "Sir, with all due respect, that will be all." Harrison cut him off, a finality in his voice that brooked no argument. Since losing his wife Eleanor 5 years ago, Harrison had retreated further into himself. The board meetings, acquisitions, and billion-dollar deals were merely distractions from the emptiness. When the diagnosis came 3 months ago, he'd made his decision. No treatments, no hospitals, no false hope. At Memorial Hospital, Dr. Olivia Pierce reviewed the file of her newest patient, or rather, her newest challenge. "Harrison Wells has refused treatment from 3 specialists," Dr. Jenkins explained. "He's only agreed to pain management, and that's because his board insisted. Don't expect much cooperation." Olivia tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "Everyone deserves care, whether they want it or not. Can't save someone who doesn't want saving," Jenkins warned. "Watch me," she replied with quiet determination. The next morning, Olivia entered the penthouse to find Harrison reviewing documents. "Mr. Wells, I'm Dr. Pierce. I'm here to give me pills and leave," he said without looking up. "That's our arrangement." Olivia set down her bag. "Actually, I'd like to discuss your treatment options." "There are none." "I've made my decision." "With all due respect, sir, that's not how this works." She pulled up a chair across from him. "Need to conduct a proper examination?" Harrison finally looked up, steel blue eyes narrowing. "Do you know who I am, doctor? A stubborn patient who thinks his bank account exempts him from medical advice?" A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by irritation. "I could have you removed from this case with one phone call." "You could," she agreed. "But then you'd miss out on the one doctor who isn't intimidated by your fortune or your frown." For the first time in months, Harrison felt something besides pain or indifference, genuine curiosity. "You have 10 minutes?" he conceded. Olivia smiled. "I'll take 15. The standoff between Harrison and Dr. Pierce continued for weeks. Every day she arrived precisely at 9, armed with medical journals, treatment options, and an infuriating persistence that tested Harrison's resolve. "The clinical trial at Johns Hopkins shows promising results for cases like yours," Olivia explained, spreading charts across his desk one morning. "I've built and sold companies worth more than that entire hospital," Harrison replied dismissively. "If there was a cure, I'd own it." "Money can't buy everything, Mr. Wells." "That's what people without money say." Olivia closed her folder with a snap. "Why are you so determined to die?" The bluntness of her question caught him off guard.
"I no more."
Spoke to him this way not since Eleanor. "I'm being realistic," he replied after a pause. "I recognize the inevitable." "No, you're hiding." Olivia leaned forward. "I've read about you. Before your wife died, you funded cancer research centers. You fought to save her. Why won't you fight? For yourself?" Harrison's jaw tightened. "That's enough, doctor. Is it because no one's left to fight for?" she pressed. "Or because fighting means admitting you're afraid?" "Get out," he said, voice dangerously quiet. Instead of leaving, Olivia placed a small device on the table. "This is a voice recorder. I want you to record a message explaining to your late wife why you're giving up when she would have wanted. You two live." The color drained from Harrison's face. "Out dare you." "I dare because it's my job to save lives, even when they belong to difficult millionaires who've forgotten what it means to hope." For several seconds they stared at each other, intense silence. Then unexpectedly Harrison reached for the recorder. "One message," he conceded. "Then we discuss pain management only." Olivia nodded and stepped outside. Through the door she heard nothing for several minutes. Then, faintly, a voice breaking with emotion. "Eleanor, I don't know how to live in a world without you." When Olivia returned, Harrison's eyes were redrimmed, but his expression had softened imperceptibly. "The Johns Hopkins trial," he said quietly. "Tell me more." It was their first breakthrough. Small, but significant. The following week, Harrison reluctantly agreed to preliminary tests. After each session, Olivia would stay to discuss the results, gradually extending their conversations beyond his illness. "You never mentioned why oncology," Harrison noted one evening as she checked his vitals. "My father," she replied, "died of leukemia when I was 14. The doctor who treated him changed my life. She couldn't save him, but her compassion saved our family." For the first time, Harrison saw Olivia not just as an irritating doctor, but as someone shaped by her own losses. "He would be proud," he said softly. Olivia smiled, surprised by the unexpected kindness. "Thank you, Mr. Wells, Harrison," he corrected. "I think we're past formalities." Rain tapped against the windows of Harrison's penthouse as Olivia administered his first treatment. The experimental protocol was aggressive, but offered the best chance against his advanced cancer. "You should know," Harrison said as the medication dripped through his fore, "I've updated my will to fund a permanent research position at your hospital." Olivia frowned. "That sounds suspiciously like goodbye. It's pragmatism. If this fails, it might not," she interrupted. "But either way, I'd rather you donate because you believe in the cause, not because you're planning your exit." Lips curved slightly. "You're the most frustrating doctor I've ever had." "Good. You're the most frustrating patient." The treatment left Harrison exhausted but clear-headed enough to notice, Olivia glancing at the untouched grand piano in the corner. "Do you play?" he asked. "A little. My father taught me." "Eleanor was the musician," Harrison said, surprising himself by volunteering the information. "I kept it, but nobody's touched it since. ... Would you mind if I?" He nodded, and Olivia moved to the piano. Her fingers found the keys, drawing out a gentle melody that filled the space with warmth it hadn't known in years. Harrison closed his eyes. "Bach, Eleanor's favorite." "Mine too," Olivia replied softly. After that day, something shifted between them. During his good days, Ursan began sharing stories about Eleanor, how they'd met when she was a concert pianist and he a struggling entrepreneur. How she'd believed in him before anyone else. She never cared about the money, he confessed. During a particularly difficult treatment session, "I kept building more, thinking it would make her happy, keep her safe. In the end, all my millions couldn't save her." Olivia took his hand. "That's why you refused treatment. You think it failed her, so it would fail you too? What's the point of fighting when you know the outcome? Because how we face death defines how we've lived," Olivia said. "Eleanor fought because she loved life in you. Wouldn't she want the same for you?" The question lingered between them, unanswered but profound. As weeks passed, Urson began exploring the garden terrace he'd neglected since Eleanor's death. Olivia often found him there, tending to the reviving plants. "Eleanor designed this space," he explained one afternoon. "I couldn't bear to see it after she was gone now. It feels right to bring it back to life."
Ow.
Olivia smiled, recognizing the metaphor he wasn't ready to acknowledge. Harrison Wells was slowly learning to live. Again. 6 months into Harrison's treatment, the unexpected happened. His latest scans showed the tumor had reduced by 30%, not remission, but a significant improvement that even the specialists hadn't predicted. "This calls for a celebration," Olivia declared, her professional demeanor giving way to genuine excitement. Harrison raised an eyebrow. "What did you have in mind, doctor?" "First, stop calling me doctor when we're not discussing medicine. Second, when was the last time you left this building for something other than a hospital visit?" The question gave him pause. "I'm not sure." "What I thought," Olivia said. "Tomorrow evening, be ready at 6. Despite his protests, Harrison found himself being escorted by Olivia to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a neighborhood he'd never visited despite decades in the city. "Owner's father was my patient," Olivia explained as they were warmly welcomed. "Best gnocchi you'll ever taste." Harrison watched her interact with the staff, struck by how different she seemed outside the hospital, more relaxed, laughing easily, her chestnut hair loose around her shoulders instead of its usual practical. "Bun, you're staring," she noted, amused. I'm just not used to seeing you as a person rather than my medical warden, Olivia laughed. And I'm not used to seeing you without a scowl. It's a good look on you. The evening passed with surprising ease. Harrison found himself sharing stories from his early business days. While Olivia described growing up in a small coastal town, their conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by genuine laughter that felt foreign yet wonderful to Harrison. He said as they walked back through the park. I'd forgotten what it feels like to simply enjoy an evening. Life is still out here, Harrison, she replied softly. It's been waiting for you. Under the glow of park lamps, he suddenly saw her clearly, not just the dedicated doctor who'd fought for his life, but the compassionate woman who'd somehow broken through walls he'd spent years building. The realization both terrified and exhilarated him. In the weeks that followed, Harrison ventured further from his isolation. He attended a board meeting in person, shocking executives who'd grown accustomed to his absence. He visited the children's hospital wing his foundation had funded but he'd never seen. Each step felt like rediscovering a world he'd abandoned. And with each new experience, Olivia was there sometimes as his doctor, increasingly as his friend. And gradually, undeniably, something more significant than either role could define. 1 year after their first contentious meeting, Harrison and Olivia stood in his garden terrace, now lush with blooming flowers. The latest scans had confirmed what they'd cautiously hoped for. His cancer was in remission. You were right, Harrison admitted, gazing at the city below. I needed to fight. You did all the hard work, Olivia replied. Just provided medical expertise and occasional bullying. He laughed, a sound that had once been so rare, but now came easily. Is that what you call refusing to leave my office until I agreed to treatment? I call it professional persistence. They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders nearly touching. The past year had transformed them both. Harrison had rediscovered purpose beyond accumulating wealth, establishing a foundation that made cutting-edge treatments accessible to patients without means. Olivia had received recognition for her innovative approach to his case, though she cared less about accolades than the fact that he was alive to annoy her another day. I have something for you, Harrison said, retrieving a small box from his pocket. A thank you seems inadequate, but it's a start. Olivia opened it to find a vintage stethoscope, delicately engraved with her initials. It's beautiful, but you didn't need to. It was Eleanor's father's, Harrison explained. He was a country doctor who believed healing was about treating people, not just illnesses. Why, you'd want you to have it. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. I don't know what to say. Let me speak instead, Harrison said, taking her hand. You came into my life when I had given up on it. You fought for me when I wouldn't fight for myself. You helped me see that wealth means nothing without health, purpose, and... He paused, gathering courage. ... love. Olivia's breath caught. Harrison, I'm not asking for anything, he assured her. I just want you to know that whatever time I have, whether it's months or years, I plan to spend it living fully. And I hope you'll be part of that life, in whatever way feels right. Olivia looked at him, this complicated man who'd journeyed from reluctant patient to something far more dear and new, with certainty that their story was just beginning. I think, she said with a smile, that sounds like the best treatment plan yet. As the sun set over the city, casting golden light across the garden Eleanor had loved, Harrison Wells embraced the second chance he'd never sought, but now cherished. Beyond measure, life rich not in millions, but in moments that truly mattered.